Thank you very much, Joanne. So today, guys, we are just going to go through a few tips and tricks, functions in Pastel, maybe that you've never seen or never actually realize that you've got those functions that can actually make it easy for you when you process or when you run your reports in Pastel, or even when you open companies on Pastel. So the first things are just basic, but hopefully someone on the group will actually find it beneficial. So first things first, when you are processing your customers and supplier documents, or any document in that case, you will find that at times you've got so many lines on your document and you just want to know how many lines do I have on the document. At some point in time, you find that you've exceeded the limit of the lines that you can have on your documents, the limit being 500 lines. So for any document that you process on Pastel, the limit of the lines is 500 lines. You cannot exceed that. So you might need to check how many lines do I have on my document. So you can go into your actual processed invoice or supplier document, and then you see there's a whole list, but you just need to know how many lines are there. Sorry, I just need to hide that screen. There we go. How many lines are there? So all you do is hover your mouse to the total field. So where you see the total field, and then you see just above this block where you usually have your message, you will see the number of lines that are there. So I'm going to hover my mouse on the total field, but you keep your eyes on the field where you usually have your message. Just above that, you see the number of lines. So if I hover my mouse there, you can see right at the top of that blank box, it tells you the number of lines. So in this case, this document, it's 22 lines. So this is just a helpful function in the sense that you don't want to exceed your 500 lines on your documents. So this is a quick way of checking how many lines do I have, instead of scrolling through your document and checking how many lines are there. So yeah, that's another function you can use. Check the number of lines that you have on your documents. And then the other thing, when you install Pastel for the first time or on a new machine, and you've registered the package and everything else is done, it creates what we call a demo company for you. So the demo company is basically a company to play with. So there are certain things that you're not sure of, how do I do it, but you don't really want to do it in your live data, and you don't really want to create a copy of that company. You can always work on what we call the demo company. So on your list of companies, this company will have a full name that says Software Sales Demo, and the name in brackets is _demo. Usually the password on this company is just demo in lowercase. I have changed my password, but the standard password on that company is just demo. You can also find this company in your Pastel directory. So if you go to your Pastel 19 folder, in this case, Pastel 19, that's the demo company. So it says _demo, and you can play as much as you want. I know the transactions are limited. It must be 200 transactions. I could be wrong there. But yes, you can play around in the demo company. You can always go into the files as well and check what is there, what is not there, and compare it to a live database if you wish to do so. So that's it for the demo company. Remember, the password is always demo in lowercase. That's when you access it for the first time. So our second thing is using the Explorer and the System Navigator. So mostly you'll find that people enjoy using the System Navigator, which looks like this, like what it shows now on my screen, or they will use the Explorer, which looks like this. So what you can do is auto invoke the Explorer, so that each time you open your company, it automatically defaults to the Explorer or the System Navigator. But this is a setting that you'll need to do for each user. So you'd go into your setup users and passwords, and then you go into your users, and let's just get a password there. Now, once you are in your user, you select the relevant user that you want to make the setting available for, and you click on the option right at the bottom that says Auto Invoke. So you can either choose between the Navigator and the Explorer, but whatever the case is, if you want that to always show when you open your company for a specific user, just make sure you tick the option that says Auto Invoke. So if Auto Invoke is not selected, Explorer will be able to show, but not automatically like you'd want it to. So always tick the option that says Auto Invoke. Okay, so that's it for the Explorer and the System Navigator. There's also some cool ways of using the Explorer. So I just want to go into my test company. So if you are in the Explorer, you have columns with your data in it. So it could be your codes, your customer codes, your descriptions, telephone numbers, whatever the case. But you might not really want to see them in the order that they show in now. So I'm in my Explorer now on my customers. It starts off with the customer code, but maybe I want to view the table with the customer description showing in the first column. So you can actually move the columns around. So you just highlight the column, and then when you drag it around, it will then move the column to where you have selected to drop it. So you can do this with multiple columns. You can select multiple columns from the top. Okay, if I can do it. Multiple columns, you drag them around and place it wherever you want the column to be. So this you can play around with as long as you understand how do you want to view your data. For example, you might even want to view just your balances. I'm not sure why I can't select multiple columns now. But say, for example, you want to see just a balance on the account. So you move it around, you go and drop it in the first column. At least that's sitting next to your customer description. You know this customer account, there is a balance that's outstanding on the account. So that you can play around with the columns. You can do the same for your suppliers, inventory, and general ledger. So just a few weeks back, I actually had a technical issue with a client where they could see the Explorer, but not those tabs on your far left here. So the problem there was that this tab was actually blocked. So if you move it further, all those columns can actually block your tabs on your far left. All you need to do is make sure your cursor is right at the end of the first column that you have in your table, and then you can drag it inside. Then you can see all your tabs clearly. Sometimes this whole table is filling up the whole page and you don't have the tabs. So just in case that's the same thing you are experiencing now, just make sure you move your cursor to this line, then you drag it in or you drag it back according to how much you want to see. Okay, so that's it for the Explorer. Now the next thing is when you are creating a company, most people found themselves in a situation where after creating a company, they don't have certain functions, or some of the settings are constantly asking them to put in a control account or put in a sales account or make sure there's a default store, whatever the case. So each time you create a new company, we always recommend that you use the setup assistant. So on this screen, when you go to File, let me just close that and start that again. So when you go to File and then go to New, always make sure where it says Method, the option Use Setup Assistant is the one that is selected. If you just click on the option that says Start a New Company, yes, it will create a company, but a blank one with no charts of accounts or default settings for your open item or balance forward. It's just a blank company and you have to set up every single thing on your own. So the setup assistant is very nice because then it actually creates some of the things for you. All you will have to do after it has created the company for you is then import your customers, supplies, and inventory if you like, or even just create them from scratch. So always remember to use the setup assistant. It's much easier, and you won't have to validate any other settings after that. So that's it on the setup assistant. And then the next thing is when you need support from us, most of the times they ask you for your customer number or what's your serial number, and everyone is always confused about where do I get that. So it's very easy. On your menu options, you just go into help, you click on about, and then you get your serial number there. So your base serial number, it will show you there. You can also get your customer number. So on your side, it will be a proper number, not just a 0 like it shows on mine, but you will get a customer number from there. So that's where you would get your details. And then if you're having problems on the server, for example, and they're asking you what's the server name that you have, what's the registered server name, you also get that in here right at the top. They might also ask you, what is the build of Pastel that you're working on, so I can check if there's a defect or a problem with it. It's also right at the top where it says Sage Pastel Partner version 19, build 19.33. Some of you might say 19.34. So that's where you get your build number as well. And then at times, they might also ask you, do you have the module? Have you purchased the module? Is it something that you've got active? So all you do is scroll further down, and you'll find there's a heading that says modules. So modules is basically everything that you have purchased for your package that is now activated on your Pastel. So if you go into it, you can scroll down and check what modules you are registered for. If it's not showing in this list, if the module is not showing in this list, then that means you're not registered for it or you have not purchased it. So it's any one of those two. So this is where you get your overall details about your package. You also get information like the number of users that you've got, the number of point of sale users that you've got. Everything is in here, including the date when your package will expire and the version of Pervasive as well. So that's it in your help and about screen. Any information that you would like to know about your package, you can get it from there. If you're not sure if you've got a certain module, you can just check that from there. So the next screen is when you're trying to invoke the open item screen. So usually you are processing in your cash book. Let me just open a cash book for you. In your cash book, and you see that for a certain user, it doesn't really open up the open item screen after you've made your payments and you want to match it to a specific invoice. So in your cash book, you go to the settings tab right at the bottom, click on the settings, and then make sure the option that says invoke open item is selected. So it's invoke open item. That's where you need to tick that option so that when you're busy capturing your lines, once you capture a payment for a supplier or receipt for a customer, it will automatically invoke the open item screen for you to then match the payment to the invoice. The same thing is also true when you go into your journals. You just get one open again. So in your journals, you still go into your settings, and there you've got the option that says invoke open item. This also allows you to do your matching. So make sure that is ticked, and it will allow you to match your transactions accordingly. I do see that there are questions coming through. Joanne will be assisting you with those, so keep those questions coming. She will definitely respond to those. So the next thing is, if you have a customer grouped by category or any other way, you might need to get an invoice and actually process an invoice, but then make that same invoice show the same lines for any other customers that you might have in the same group. So what I'm saying is, if I process an invoice right here, it's got maybe one line on it, but I also want all my customers in my list to have the same invoice because the lines are the same. So usually this happens with schools. the amount might be exactly the same, the line items might be exactly the same, but all I need to do is to copy the same transaction or the same invoice line to all my other customers. So you have an option in the document where you can click on batch, and then you click on the option that says make one for all. So this option will only be activated if you try it now. If you just go into a document and open and then go to batch, it might be grayed out. So this will not be grayed out if you enter a line. So you need to make sure that you enter your transactions in the document. Once you get a transaction in a document, then when you go back into batch, make one for all will then be activated. So what we are doing is saying, this customer that I've created a line for, I need to create exactly the same lines for all my other customers. So when you click on make one for all, I'm not sure if I did that. Yes, so make one for all. So it will open up an assistant where you can choose whether you want to make this batch for a range of customers in a specific category or just for a range of customers. It could be all your customers. So in this case, let's just say it's a range of customer codes. So all we do, we can leave it blank, then it's going to create a whole batch of invoices for all the customers that I have, because that's what I'm asking it to do. Otherwise, you can actually specify that I only need it to create the batch for a certain number of customers, then you can do it in here. So if it's just 5 customers from the first one, then you can specify the customers that should have the batch created. But in this case, I'll just create a batch for all my customers because we just want to see what it will do. Okay, so when you click on next, it will tell you when, for which date and for which period those transactions are going to be created. If you're happy with that, you can proceed. Otherwise, you can just go back one step and make sure that you make the relevant changes. But it always picks up the current period that is already showing on your invoice. So on your invoice, it's period 7 and the date is September, the 15th of September. So it always pulls through that date that is on the current invoice that you made for the first time. So when you click on process, it will tell you how many documents have been created. The make one for all assistant has created 12 invoices that are exactly the same as the first invoice that you created. So you can just click on OK and then finish, and that's it. So when you go into your global, you will see there's 12 invoices with obviously the same lines as the first invoice that you created. So I think this is a very cool feature. It allows you to save time. You don't have to go into each individual customer and process a line that's going to be recurring on the next 20 customers, for example. So this really saves you time. So that's it on make one for all. We have another option when you are in your allocation screen. Mostly, let me just open the screen first and then I can explain what you can do in the match open item screen. So if you're in your match open item screen, you have a function where it allows you to automatically do the matching. So instead of you matching the transactions individually, let me just see if I've got transactions. Yes, I do. So mostly you would check under your unallocated transactions. There is a value there which you need to match to your individual invoices. So instead of you doing this manually, dragging it and putting it back, and then maybe making a mistake and you're not so sure about it, and then you try and fix it and then it's broken. So there is an option in the match open item screen that says auto match. Okay, so all this AutoMatch does is look at the outstanding invoices and the payments that have been made, and then determines how much needs to be paid. So if there was an invoice of 1,000 Rand and then there's an unallocated payment of 1,000 Rand as well, the AutoMatch would just find the link between those two and then it will match it for you. I know most people would prefer doing it manually because then they know this is the invoice that I need to match to and this is the payment that I would want the transaction to be matched to. The auto match is very handy if you are always up to date with your allocations. So If you are, 3 or 5 months behind with your matching, then I wouldn't recommend that you use the AutoMatch. But if the last time you did your matching was last month, for example, and you only have 2 invoices or an invoice that was paid for now, then AutoMatch is the correct way to do it. It really does it for you without you having to do it manually. So just remember, if you are behind with your matching, don't do auto matching. Otherwise, it might just pick up values that look the same and then match it for you. Okay, and then once you are done with auto matching, make sure you click on save, and then you can just close the screen. Okay, so that's on the matching screen, the auto match function. So when you're running reports on Pastel, it's important to remember that Pastel remembers the last report options that you selected. So if you were running, for example, the trial balance, and on your trial balance, you were running it only for, let's say, for March, right? And then when you go into any other report and run a report, it remembers the filters that you selected. It might also default to March. Okay, so sometimes you find that you were running a trial balance, you selected a specific period and a specific range of accounts, for example. When you then go and run your income statement, it will have exactly the same filters. So it's pulling through from the last report options that you selected. That's how you usually have it on Pastel. So just in case you're wondering, why does the system do that? I didn't choose much, but it's defaulting to much when I run my income statement. It's because it's pulling through from the last report that you generated on the system. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is Pastel allows you to create multiple delivery addresses on your customers. So if you're in your customer account, if it opens, okay. So in your customer account, you can have a delivery address, but you might also have additional delivery addresses. This usually happens in a case where your client might have different branches, and then they want you to deliver their stock to a specific branch, which is besides the normal branch. So you can then save or capture those additional delivery addresses in the additional tab. And then when you process your invoice as well, it allows you to choose that specific delivery address, because maybe this invoice that you're doing this month is not necessarily going to the normal delivery address. You just need a different one. So you just make sure in the invoice where you click on the magnifying glass, then it will give you the additional. I don't have additional delivery addresses on this account, that's why it says no records. But if I had one, it would then give me a list of all the delivery addresses that I've saved before, and then it will allow me to select that, and that's the one that will show on the invoice right at the top there. So it's very handy. If you've got more than one delivery address on a customer account, make sure you save it as such. It will help you when you then do your invoices. So when you're running your reports as well, you found that there's so many people that say, I've done a cash book transaction, but when I go and view the detailed report, all it says there is Contra or Z Contra. It's not giving me details of the actual transaction that I've done. So this is a setting. It's a setting that you need to change in Pastel. So if you go into your setup entry types, so on your entry types, you've got a column that says Contra in detail. So it's the third column, actually a fourth column after your debits and credits, Contra in detail. So you find that for the transactions, for my entry types that I don't have Contra in detail selected, when I go and view the detailed report or the general ledger report, it shows me just something that says Z Contra. But for the entry types where I've got Contra in detail selected, it will give me a detailed breakdown of all the transactions that I've actually processed, the date, the description, the amount, the account that was selected. It will give me all of that in detail. So it's always advisable to make sure that this is selected. Your Contra in detail is selected if you need a detailed breakdown of what transaction was done. Okay, so if you haven't done this and you're only ticking this now, remember this is only going to start working for any transactions that you start doing from now going forward. It's not going to change the settings for transactions that you've done previously. It's not going to activate it. It's only going to start working from now going forward. But other than that, there's nothing else you can do if you didn't select this option and then your transactions are showing as just Z contras in your detailed ledger. Okay, so hopefully that's clear enough, and I hope you're also going through it as we're going, because then you actually remember where to find the settings. The more you work on it, or the more you try and get to it, it'll help you remember when you actually need it. Then the next thing is, most people would view what's happening in the tables on your Pervasive control center. So as we all know, Pervasive is the database that runs Pastel. It's the engine that runs Pastel. So most of the back end processing, people would go into it and check what's happening with your tables. Our Pastel dealers will know much about that, but I'm not going to delve much into it. The only thing I'm going to help you learn from here is if you want to create a Pervasive database. So I'm going to try and open my Pervasive here. While we wait for that, if you're going to try and create a Pervasive database, usually you'd open your Pervasive control center, you create a new database on your engine, you copy the name and make sure that it's correct. But instead of doing that, if you are in your Pastel, when you run the management pack report, it's going to create the Pervasive engine for you after you run that report. So you don't have to go into your PCC and actually create the database manually. So I'm in PCC now. What is the standard is going onto your computer name, and then you click on new database, right? And then you create your database there, and then you browse for it, find where the company is saved. I just hope I have a company where I haven't created a database manually. So I pick up a company, I copy the name there, click OK, and then paste the company name right at the top there. So when you click on finish, now when you go into your company folders here, there is the database. I've created it manually in the Pervasive Control Center right at the bottom. But instead of going through this whole process, let me just remove that. Instead of going through this whole process of creating the database manually, in Pastel, you can just run the management pack report, and when you go into your Pervasive Control Center, it would have created the database for you. So I'm going into the other company because I just want to run the report there. Hopefully I don't get errors. So if you run the report and then you run the management pack report, let's give it some time. It might take a while if the company database is big, but all it's doing right now is creating the link. So on the message that comes up, it's just telling you you're going to run this as an administrator. It's just loading. Then it will ask you, would you like to proceed? You can say yes. And the next message that comes up says that the data link has been created. You should now be able to access the data. So when you click OK, if you now go back into your PCC or your Pervasive Control Center, it should now have that database automatically created for me. So it's a quick way of getting the database created without you having to go into your Pervasive Control Center and manually creating the database. So if you go in there now, it should have the database there. There we go. So it has created it for me. So it's a quick trick. It helps you to create your databases quickly, especially if you've got a whole lot of companies where you need to go check something in the Pervasive Control Center. It's a quick way of creating the database. Okay, so hopefully you got that. Now, on your inventory items, you've noticed that there's another tab. If you go into your edit inventory item file, there's a tab there that allows you to insert an image. So most people would want to know, okay, I've got a whole lot of inventory items. Okay, let me just close this. I need to go back to a company where I've got actual inventory items. So what we're going to learn now is how to insert an image for your inventory items. So in your edit inventory, and then you go to your item file. On your inventory item, there's a tab that says picture. So this just allows you to have a picture for your inventory items. So the only format that this tab allows you to bring in an image in is if the image is in a bitmap format. So it cannot be a JPEG, it cannot be any other format. It only has to be a bitmap, not even a PNG file format. So when you go into your select picture, you need to make sure that the picture says whatever name.bmp, and this also needs to be saved into your images folder on your Pastel directory. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, you need to save the image onto your Pastel directory, and then you've got the images folder. So it's, Pastel folder under custom, and then you've got an images folder, XP images. That's where your image needs to be saved for your inventory items. But if it's not saved there, you'll see it will give us a message that just now. So I'm going to start that again. If you select picture, and then you select your image, my image is saved somewhere else. Select your image, you click on open. So what it's telling me is that your image is sitting somewhere else and you want to use it as an image for your inventory items on Pastel. Would you like me to copy that image from wherever it is and put it into the image folder on my Pastel directory? So that's what this message is saying. So it will probably not allow you to proceed, but if you say yes, then it imports the image onto your Pastel. It also saves that same image in the Pastel directory where we were just now. It will save it in the custom image and inside the XP images folder. So if you try and find it, it will probably be there, but I've got plenty. But you can test it on your side. If you are doing it with me now, you can check the image will be sitting in there as well. So that's it for adding an image on your inventory items. And then once you click on save, it should save that picture for you. Each time you go there, in case someone has to go pick out inventory and bring it to a customer, this usually happens if you've got big inventory items like what example can I give? Like for a farmer, it's a tractor. You just need the right image of who's going to pick out the tractor and ask the customer, is this the correct thing you need? At least you've got an image of the actual inventory item on your Pastel, on your database. So that's it for saving images. It's also important to remember that having images on your Pastel directory will make your company folder really big because all those images are saving in the Pastel directory. So just be wary of that. That's if you've got a whole lot of inventory items. So the next thing we're going to learn is how to create your favorites. You found that in your Pastel, in your menu options at the top, right at the top, the second last menu option says favorites. So you can create favorites. So favorites is when there are certain functions or certain menu items that you constantly use in Pastel. So, I mean, how often do you go into the utility menu? Maybe you do, but it's not as often as you would go into it like you do with your customers. So you go into your process cash book quite a lot. So what you do is you open your favorites. On yours, if you're doing it with me, if you go into favorites, it doesn't have anything else on the list except the option that says manage favorites. So if you click on manage favorites, yours would be showing as blank if you are following through. Yours should be blank if you haven't used favorites before. But if you want to add something that you constantly use on Pastel, so let's say it's your cash book. I just want to see if I don't have a cash book here. Okay, let me remove the cash book. Okay, so if you use the cash book quite often, you need to leave your manage favorites screen open. Then you go into your process cash book and then click on process cash book. Did you see what just happened there? It's added the cash book process function as a favorite for me. So for you to manage your favorites, you make sure that you open the favorite screen first. So let's close that. So you go into your favorites, manage favorites, get that open first. Now you then go and select what do you want to add onto your favorites screen. So in this case, we've added the cash book before. If you go to process journals, it's now added the journals as my favorites on the list. After you've done that, you just click on OK. Now when you go into your favorites tab, my journals and cash books are now showing on the list. If you just click on the journal, then it will take you to the journal screen like you would want to. So it's just like a quick access screen where it gets you to a specific process options. Then what's also important to remember is the only things that you can get into your manage favorites screen are anything under your edit, process, view, and change menu, because that's where you usually do your processing, your changes, and everything of the sort. Those are the only menu options that you can get onto your manage favorites. So it's easy to know what can I get onto my manage favorites, because the moment you open the manage favorites screen, those are the only menu options that are active. The rest is deactivated because you can't get that onto your manage favorites screen. Okay, so that's it on your manage favorites screen. And then on your manufacturing module, so for those that use the manufacturing module, it's usually used in an environment where you've got a whole lot of inventory items that are used to make a final product. So it's a whole lot of inventory items that you've got in stock, but those inventory items are mixed together to come up with a final product. Excuse me, to come up with a final product that you are manufacturing. If you're not sure if you've got the module or not, go into your help and about. Like we said before, under your modules, you can check if you've got the manufacturing module. But in any case, what we need to get from this is your manufacturing module, if you've created a final product. So if you go into edit manufacturing and the bills of material. So in your manufacturing module, once it's enabled on Pastel or on any version of Pastel, it lets you create additional description lines for inventory items. Okay, so if you've got an inventory item selected in there, that's fine, because that's your additional descriptions. And then when you create your inventory or your final product or your BOM item, BOM being your bills of material item, if you tick on the option that says print details on invoice, it allows you then to have multiple lines with an additional description for the item. And when you process the invoice, it then displays those additional descriptions as a remark. So in this case, the code is BOM123. The option that says print details on invoice has been deselected. I will save that. If I close that and then go into a tax invoice and then try and process an invoice or the bill of material, you will see that it will only pick up just that one description. Let me just quickly get to the item. So the bill of material code is BOM. So you see, I've entered my bill of material. All it does is pull through a description of the final product, and that's it. But at times you might need more than just that one description. There might be multiple descriptions that you needed to pull through on your invoice. This is where you then get back to your edit bill of material screen. So edit manufacturing bills of material. And on your bill of material, sorry, I'm trying to open plenty of things at the same time. Let me just get that invoice screen closed. Okay, that's gone. Back onto your bill of material edit screen. When you tick this option that says print details on invoice, you will find that we will get multiple descriptions for the item, because remember, when we went into the text invoice, the only description that we saw was this, the inventory code bomb serial. But now you'll find that it will pull through more than just that one description. So we save those changes when we go back into the text invoice. Now when we process to that specific bill of material item, it should pull through more than just that one description. Okay, now I've got a problem with my quantities. I don't have enough quantities, but what I wanted you to see was the fact that after you select the item, it would have pulled through multiple descriptions, the description on the actual bill itself and the description of the item that we've linked in the bill of material. I'll try and get it to pull through just now. I just need to remove the other quantities there. Let me see if I can quickly manufacture. Sorry, 1 second. If I can't, we'll move on and then we can come back and maybe test this in a demo company. Okay, I think we can come back to this. It's going to take me a while to create the serial numbers, and they're trying to pull through all of that. It's going to complain about quantities. But if you've got the manufacturing module, you can go into it and test when you tick that option, what pulls through, and then when you don't tick that option, you can find that there's multiple lines. I'm sorry that I didn't check the quantities that I've got on this manufacturing item. We'll check this in the demo company shortly. We'll come back to it. I'm just wary of time now. So that's it on the manufacturing. You get your additional descriptions to pull through if you just tick that option where it says print invoice lines there. So the next function is when Pastel allows you to consolidate companies with similar information. So companies that have existing companies that have the same general ledger accounts, the same budgets, everything is the same. So you can consolidate those companies into one big company. And you need to make sure that when you do your consolidations, these companies should also have the same passwords. So you consolidate. After you consolidate, it creates one big company where you can then start running reports that are based on those companies. So if you go into File, Consolidate. So it opens up the consolidation assistant. This is just giving you the rules and what you need to make sure of before you create a consolidation of companies. So once you click next, make sure you understand what those rules are asking you to do, and you adhere to that. Otherwise, when you try and consolidate and you haven't adhered to those steps there, it might give you an error and it might not even create the company. So I'm just rushing through it, but what I need you to actually see is the screen here. So it's asking you to create a new company name that you need to have after all the companies have been consolidated. So in this case, let's just call it consolidate. This is just to help us remember that we are consolidating quite a few companies. So it tells you where this company is going to go. It's going to into your Pastel directory. And then now you need to select a list of companies that you want to consolidate into one. Those companies that you select in this list, they are sitting in your Pastel directory. And when you select these companies, make sure they do have the same password. Those companies should have the same password. If you select the one, just trying to find, I think my demo has the same password as the others. Okay, so you select the demo, and then for me, this is just me showing you how to do it. So I selected the demo, that's the password for the demo company. And then when I go into the next screen, I'm going to select multiple other companies that are going to be consolidated together with the demo company, okay? Okay, so as soon as you select the company, it shows below here where it says company selected for consolidation. There's another one. I think you can, we can add one more if I still have one. I'm just trying to pick up companies where I've got the same password. Okay, so I'm selecting 3 for now. So I've selected 3 companies and I'm happy with that. Those 3 companies have the same password. That's why they allowed me to select them. If it doesn't have the same password, it will pop up a message that says incorrect password. Uh, let's try and do that so you can see what would happen if you select a company without the same password. Okay, so that one has the same password as well. I don't think I've got a company with a different password. If I had one, uh, okay, all right, it doesn't look like I've got a company with a different password. But in any case, you select your companies. When you go into the next screen, it then tells you what it's going to do. It's going to create a company based on 4 companies that I selected. So it says you're about to consolidate 4 companies into a new company called Console 21, and that's where it's going to be saved. So if I click on process, it should create the company for me. It might take a while as well, depending on how big all those other companies are, but it's generally going to consolidate all the general ledgers into one big report, including your budgets as well. So if you had budgets in any of those will be consolidated as well. Okay, so it's taking a while because the companies are probably quite big. But once it's done, like it's done now, you click on finish and it will automatically take you into a screen where you can log into the new company. The password, because we selected companies with the same password, then the password is still going to be the same on the new company that it has created. Then when you try and access this company for the first time, it will come up with a security screen. You enter your passwords accordingly if you need to force a strong password, or if not, your email addresses, security questions in case you forget your password. So once you log in, it will come up with the text screen where it's confirming that it's going to change your text from 14%. It's doing this because I think one of my companies didn't have the setting changed to the new 15% text type. Okay, so this is the company. This is the consolidated company. You will find that the only thing that it will have there is your ledger balances. So if I go, I'm using the Explorer now because I'm just trying to save us a little bit of time. So in the Explorer, you find that my ledger balances, it's pulled through the balances from all 4 companies. But what I don't have is customers. I don't have suppliers. I don't have inventory. You will still need to create that because maybe the customers that you had in company A are not necessarily the customers that you're going to have in company B, or are not necessarily the same customers that you'll be using after you've consolidated the companies into one. So you'll still need to do that, and you can still carry on processing in the consolidated company. Okay, so hopefully that was clear enough. The only thing you need to remember with consolidations is the companies should have the same password. If they don't, before you consolidate, then make sure you go back to it and you go into each company and set a password that's common for all the companies that you will be consolidating. Then the next thing, if our tax rates change, instead of manually changing those tax rates on each of your customers, sorry, let me just go back into my test company. So this is with regards to the same thing that happened to us when the tax was changed from 14% to 15%. You find that it can be very inconvenient going into all your accounts. So for example, when you edit customer accounts or inventory items, for example, let's go into customer accounts. And then in your customer accounts, if you've got a tax default text types set up on your account. So let's say, for example, I had 14% set up here. Going into each and every customer account or in each and every general ledger account and changing the default text from 14% to 15% will take me forever, especially if I've got a big company. So instead of doing that, what you can do, okay, that's closed. You can go into edit, and then you go to text type adjustment. So this allows you to adjust the text type for your GL accounts, your customer supplies, and inventory in one go without you having to manually going into every single account and changing it manually. So here, all you do is select what you want to make changes on. Is it your general ledger, customers, or suppliers? Unfortunately, you can't select all of them at the same time. It's only one master file at a time. So in this case, if it's customers, you select the range of customers where you want to change the general text, the default text on it, and then you click on next, and then you choose what was the old text type setting. So if it was on if the default was 14 in this case, and then you want the new default text to be 15, then you just change it like I'm doing now. So default text type, mine was set to no text default, but now I wanted to change the default text type to 15%, and then you click next, process, finish, and that's it. It would have changed your default text types for your customer accounts. If I go in there now, it should show me that that's what I've changed it to. So yeah, all my customers are now sitting on the default 15% text type. If you scroll through all of them, they all have 15% text time. Sorry, guys, give me a second. Let me just get some noise going on here removed. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, so that's how you do your text type adjustments. So you can do it in bulk for all your master files without you having to do it individually. And then the next one, which I think is really cool, is when you're running your customers or your report or your suppliers for inventory, general ledger, whatever the case may be, usually you only get two options. It's either you manually select a range of the reports from start to the end, or you select just all of them when you run the report. But in this case, you get a filter. You can play around with a filter so that it can run for specifically the accounts that you need to see. So let's say you've got thousands of customers ranging from the alphabet A to Z, but you only want to see customers that are between the range of C and M, for example. So when you run your report and you select your filters, when you get to the filter screen, so instead of you leaving it blank so that it runs for all your customers, you can select the alphabet of the customer accounts that you've got and then put the Z at the end. So in this case, I want a range between C and M. So I'll put in the capital C and then the letter Z like that. And then I also wanted to pull through customers up to, let's say, N as well, include N. On my customer end, I put in the capital letter N in the letter the Z like that. So what it's going to do is going to pull through all the detailed ledger report only for customers within the letters that I've specified. So you select your other filters as you would normally do, but the only thing that you change is your customer start and customer end. If it's within a specific range of letters, put in the first letter and the Z at the end, the last letter and the Z at the end. Then it will only pull through the detailed ledger for that specific alphabet that I've selected. So if you click on OK, and you find that it has pulled through customers in the range that I've selected. Only that, not everything that I wanted. You can also try this on your side. I know we all don't create our customer accounts in the same manner, but if you do use alphabets, this really helps you, because then you can just select a range of accounts that you want it to pull through for. It's also important to remember that when you select, say, a range between C and N, like I've just done, it will exclude C, but everything else after that should be included. I don't have much on my customer master or my customer accounts, but if you've got a whole lot of information, you can actually see this coming into effect when you run the report like that. So that's it. It's just a filter thing that you can play with. Change the letters around and put a Z at the end. Then it will only pull through the report for that specific range that you would have selected. And then the other thing, when you are busy processing, you can create inventory items or account on the fly. So let's say I'm in a text invoice, and while I'm busy creating, I remember that, well, I imported my inventory items, but as I was importing, I think I forgot to create another item. So I can create that item on the fly. So all you need to do is to press on that F6 function, and then it will open up the edit screen for you to create a new item altogether. So let's call that M-test. It allows me to create the item, and then as soon as I click on save, okay, it's a physical item. As soon as I click on save, it defaults back to a new screen where I can create another item. But if not, you can just close it and it would just take you back to the text invoice screen where you were selecting an item again. So if you need to do that, you can do that on the fly, and it saves you a whole lot of time instead of going into the menu option and trying to create an item from there. So that's it on creating items on the fly. I don't think I've missed anything else. Oh yes, the one thing I wanted to, I don't know if I've got any account that will allow me to do this, but this is when you're trying to save something real quick without having you to tick on the option that says save. So let's say I'm creating a customer account. Okay, sorry, let me just get my text invoice screen closed. Okay, so in my text invoice screen, let's say I am creating a customer and I've got plenty of customers to create. I create the account and I give it a name, Nancy Test. Instead of me clicking on the save off function all the time with my mouse, all you can do is press Control and Enter on your keyboard. So just Control, Enter, and it will save it, and you'll see it will open up the next screen for you to enter a new customer account. So you create a new customer account again, give it a description, and instead of clicking on save, just press Control Enter on your keyboard and the account should be there. And you'll find when you go into your edit screen, those new accounts that I just created should be showing in there as well. There. So it allows you to create those accounts as quickly as that. Instead of clicking on the save option using your mouse, just press Control Enter, and that's it. So those are just some of the tips and tricks that you can have on Pastel that you can make use of that will save you a whole lot of time. There are plenty of them, but because of time, we can't go through them. We'll probably need a whole day to learn some of those things. I know some of them you probably already know, but hopefully there were quite a few new ones that you learned that will really help you save time when you're processing or running reports, whatever the case may be. So that's it on our tips and tricks, and I'll give you back to Joanne and she can carry on with the questions that are in the question box. Thank you once again, guys. Really appreciate you all coming to join the session.
Thanks so much, Nancy. So guys, I've got a couple of questions with regards to what we went through. Some of them were more support related. So to those of you, I've given you a couple of tips. Someone said that when they go to actually view their Sage Intelligence, it tells them that there are no reports. Now, that can happen. It could be that you're running an older version of the Sage Intelligence for the version you're running. Remember, Nancy showed you guys how to view that. So you can go and see that you have the latest version running. However, guys, sorry about that. That was meant to be helping about. So if you're on 19, please make sure that you have the latest Sage Intelligence 19 installed, but that it's either Partner or Express. So you can look at that. If it's still not working, you will need to get hold of support because there are other things. But guys, I don't have time to run through a whole bunch of solutions to problems, unfortunately. But that is one of the things you can try. Uninstall, reinstall, see if that works. If not, please get hold of support@sage.com. Then guys, a question that's been asked is when using the consolidated function, can you continue using the other companies? Will the changes made in a single company process through to the consolidated company, or should you just use a consolidated company? So guys, the consolidation is for reporting purposes only. This is where you have companies that you are consolidating for reporting purposes, like, okay, well, I've done this function and this function and this function, and I've put them as 3 companies, but now I want to bring them together so that I can report on my year end or whatever it is. Can you continue using the ones that you used? Yes. Will it process through to the consolidated company? No. The moment you split a data set, guys, it's split. The system won't, unfortunately, know that, oh, demo and demo 1 and demo 2 all make up console 21. Unfortunately, it doesn't know that the moment you've split those companies, or you've split, it's not actually a split. The moment you've consolidated them, you've created a new entity. Sorry, I'm trying to explain this in the best way that I can. So I'm sorry if I'm not making sense. I'm trying to explain it the best way. So basically, you create a new data set, and that data set has no ties to the other 3. So it basically looks at the tables in the 3 of them, it consolidates them, but then it's separated. So I hope that makes sense. It's completely separated. So if you change something in one, it's not going to know that because you've already consolidated. So you should only consolidate for the reporting purposes once the companies are complete and you've processed completely, you're happy with them, and it's normally done at around year end. That's normally when that function is used. Guys, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, please let me know. I'll try to find another way to explain that, or maybe Nancy has a better way of explaining it. But no, unfortunately, the changes won't be seen. And you can't use the consolidated company. It will not allow you to process in. It's reporting purposes only. It just copies master file balances. So you can't then go into that and start processing. The options to process don't exist in that company. So the consolidation is for a very specific reason. That's why you consolidate. And then I've got, I'm not sure if this is an issue. I just want to read it. Okay, guys, this looks like it might just be a change in the coding. So it's when we go to edit inventory item activity screen, when we click on the sales and we want to go back, it takes us to the first inventory item instead of back to the activity. I'll raise it with Dev, but it sounds more like that. I'll raise it with them, but that's probably coding. So it's probably an if function where it was like, you've clicked to go view the sales and it's not taking you back to that screen. So it's just not remembering that's where you were.
Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry, Joe. That has actually been logged as a defect. Can they just send you their email address and then we'll send them the defect number?
Perfect. Thanks so much, Nancy. I wasn't sure. Okay, guys, so that's actually a defect. Thank you for raising that. That's absolutely a defect. And then, guys, thanks, Nancy, for that. And then, guys, I had someone say that when they're here in the screen and the Explorer is open, they only see customers. So I'm assuming that you're just seeing this and you were seeing Nancy jump between them. And they were like, how do I do that? Guys, what it means is that the menu that you can use is hidden. So I don't know how closely you can see my screen, but as I move to the left, you can see that my cursor changes. So it needs to change to that little cursor with the two lines in the left and right. And basically what you're doing is you need to drag it so you can see the menu. Once you can see the menu, you'll then be able to jump through them. So it's just that the menu itself is actually hidden in the Explorer. So you just need to pull it across. So that was just basically hidden. And then, yeah, you just need to move it across. I think those were all the questions that were there that I couldn't answer or I didn't answer. Thank you to the person who came and said thank you for the session. They have to leave. Then, guys, there's just a little tip that I want to give, and it's to do with processing. And I know a lot of you probably do need to leave, guys. It will take me a few seconds. So sometimes people call in and they go, hey, I've processed a document, whether it's customers or suppliers, and they'll go, I've entered it, and when I look at the tax, it's telling me that it's 1 cent or 2 cents higher or lower than what I work out. And my customer or my supplier is going, you know, there's a problem. It's normally on customers because they'll refuse to pay it. What can I do? Guys, this normally happens because of mathematical rounding. So we only allow 2 decimals, but that isn't necessarily how things work out when you have a price. And unfortunately, I don't have an exact example, but you have like R4.99. And if you times that by like 25, it might not necessarily give you 2 decimals. It may give you like 1247538. So unfortunately, I just chose a really bad number. But basically, guys, what happens in this instance is that it is the amount that you're selling, and it causes obviously the cents to expand, and then the system needs to round to the closest 2 decimals. and so it rounds. Now, the way that we normally get past that is we check if when processing, how are you processing? Because this normally does solve it. So you'll be processing and you'll check, and you can check that this is exclusive. What you'll need to do is delete the lines and just tick inclusive. And what you'll find is the inclusive may work. If it is inclusive, uncheck inclusive and see if the exclusive works. So that's just a little tip on that for all of you. If you find you have that problem, swap the way that you're entering the price. If exclusive, go inclusive. If inclusive, go exclusive. Obviously, if that doesn't work, let us know. But 99.9% of the time, guys, that works. And then your invoice is shown correctly. And it's just mathematical rounding. And mathematical rounding when using 2 decimals, it's very difficult to have an exact value. So guys, that was just the one tip that came through to me. Otherwise, I think that we've answered all questions. We do thank you for joining us for the session. If there is a question that we have not answered, guys, please send it again in the question feed, and I'll be happy to answer that about the specific topic. I do know someone has asked about that 1934 that I did mention. I will get to it now. Otherwise, guys, if you're happy, you're welcome to leave. Remember that if you do require recordings from previous sessions, please pop me a mail, joanne.barnard@sage.com, or you can respond on the email that sent you the reminder. It will come through to me and I will send it to you. Guys, I do try to answer as quickly as I can, but sometimes it does take me a few days. I do apologize. I am doing a whole lot of other stuff and running sessions for other products. So at times it may be 2, 3, 4, worst case scenario, a week before I get back to you. But I do try to get through to you and back to you as quickly as I can. So guys, thanks for that. Yeah, if you're happy, you can log out. Otherwise, I'm going to go through any questions I may have missed. And guys, I'm also then going to address that question about the 1934 that came through. Okay, so guys, basically the question that came through was about the digital coding signature, or the digital signing signature. And it said, is this for all of the other versions or only 19? Guys, it's only for 19. And I know that a lot of you are probably going, but why? If that needs an update to the signing signature so it can be valid, surely all of the other versions do. No, guys, they don't, because it's not the latest version. And I know that that may sound frustrating to some of you, but no software company does this. We're not going to go and update signing certificates to make them valid on old software. There are a multitude of reasons for that, and I'm going to try to explain the software reasons for it, not even from a Sage perspective, just as Microsoft, Apple, all of them. They will sign their latest software and they will make sure that those are valid. If they need to update them, they will update them. We've never had to update a version because we've always been on a new version. So, for example, 18, we wouldn't have needed to update it because we moved to 19 and had a new signing signature that made it valid. The thing is, we are not going to be changing versions, to my knowledge, at all. That may change in the future, but we have nothing on our books to go to version 20. Sage 50 Cloud or version 19 is the last version we're going to use. So the digital signature will be updated as we need to make it valid. But the reason why a lot of software companies don't do that is because they're constantly releasing new versions. So that's why. So they only ever update the version that they're on. And the reason for that is because, to be very honest, we want you on the latest version. That's where we want you on, and that is where all the work is also being done. Guys, when you bring defects to our attention, if you're on version 14, we thank you for bringing that defect to our attention. If it wasn't one we know about and we've logged, and we will log it, but we're also not going to fix it on 14. We're going to fix it on 50C or 19. That's what we're going to fix it on. So that is a huge reason to be on the latest version already, is that any fixes and enhancements that happen are only going to happen on the latest version. And that is with every software developer that I know of, whether it's Microsoft, whether it is Apple, whether it is QuickBooks, whether it is Xero, we all fix the latest version. To go and fix everything would take too long. And everyone is in the game of obviously making money. You want to get the most value for what you're doing. In fixing products, the older products, you're not going to see that either. And I'm just being very honest with you. So that's the practice in software, is not to do that. You do say you will fix it, but you fix it on your latest versions. Over and above that, we only test our latest version, see if it's compatible on new operating systems and with new products that integrate with Pastel. So if there's a new Office out, we're only going to test Sage 50C or version 19. We're not going to test 18, 14, 11, 9. We're not going to test those versions. So there's probably an incompatibility on some of those versions to the latest software, especially with .NET. So that's why only version 19 has gotten that digital signing certificate, actually. So that, yeah, hopefully that explains it from a software point of view and from why you should be on the latest version. Guys, it's for compatibility. It's to make sure that that signing certificate is valid. And that's where you're going to be the most benefited, because we do the work on the latest version. So those defects, those enhancements, they happen there. And if you're going to keep upgrading your Windows, there's really no point in not upgrading the rest of your software. While I understand you feel comfortable in older software, and older software is probably more stable in anything, the reason it's more stable is probably because less connects to it and it has less features. And the less features any software has, the more stable it's going to be, because there's less chance of it breaking as well. So those are all things to keep in mind when you look at software and you think, do I want to move to the software? Don't I? Is it robust? Is it stable? Guys, our software is as stable and robust as we can possibly make it, given the fact that it does need things like a live database. We need Pervasive. That is a live database. Corruption happens on single users, and that is because of the power grid, actually. So there are reasons why some things may seem not robust, but they actually are. So live data sets can be difficult to manage, especially when you don't have a stable power grid, unfortunately. A lot of people then bring UPS into it, and they'll be like, yeah, but I have UPS and I have laptops. Awesome. Where are your UPSs placed? Because if they're only on the server and you've got laptops, your whole network is left open, guys. So that's something to bear in mind. If you're in a multi-user environment and you don't have your UPSs on your switches to keep your network up when people are updating, the laptop can stay up and the server can stay up, but the communication between the two is lost. So that is also a problem there. I'm just trying to, sorry guys, I'm trying to paint a picture with the knowledge that I have. Please tell me if I'm confusing you. I will go back, because I don't like to assume people have more or less knowledge than me. I don't think that's fair. And I have been told at times I come across condescending, again, my apologies, not my intention at all. If I'm speaking at a level that you find seems like I'm talking down to you, please let me know. It's not my intention. I'm basically just trying to share the knowledge that I have. So guys, yeah, obviously the reason for being on the latest version is, as I've given you, I do understand people's questions about the robustness or the stability of the system. But guys, version 19 also has a lot more in it than version 11, to be honest. Like, a lot of people go, version 11 was your last stable version. Yeah, and it has half the features, in my opinion, that version 19 has. So based on what you've needed, we've made changes, we've added things, we've tried to make things better. I mean, Forms Designer was incredibly basic, and we've done a whole lot on Forms Designer to make that so that you can really use it, and you can actually use your company colors as per the Forms Designer that I went into. So guys, the more you add to something and the more it can do, the less robust it may seem, but that's not necessarily the case. So I hope that that helps to kind of explain why that digital signature is only on 19. It explains why we want you to be on 19. There are legitimate reasons for it. And if you guys have any other questions, please let me know, even around that. Like, if I said something and you're like, that's interesting, but you didn't explain fully, let me know, guys. I'm happy to have a very open, honest conversation with you about it. and we can discuss it. And you can also give me your concerns and go, but I find this and I find that. That is the info that I get to take to Dev, and I get to share with them, and I can share your experiences. So please let me know. Otherwise, guys, yeah, I think that I've hopefully covered that answer. As I said, let me know in the question section if I haven't. That's all for today. We hope that we'll see you at the next one. Please remember the survey. Please fill that out for us, guys. Please remember that this will be based on Nancy's presentation, not mine, even though I have said a little bit. This is for Nancy, so please rate Nancy so that she can see how she's doing, and we can also improve, or she knows that she's doing great and she can know what to continue with. And please give us those topics, guys. We're going to have a meeting probably next week on that, and I want to make sure your voices are heard in the topics that you want us to run, instead of us deciding this seems cool. Otherwise, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Hopefully we'll see you at the others, and I'm going to stick around for a bit in case anyone else wants me to explain anything else in more detail that I touched on. Thanks so much, guys.